So what I'm going to try and do in the next half hour is tell you a little bit about myself and us, and then just look at the basic principles so that you hopefully can go away thinking, that was interesting. So, a quick history about myself. That's me, a younger version of myself, 26 years old, working for the Countryside Commission for Scotland. And what you're looking at is the first ever glamping pod. So I was asked to look at the provision of low-cost accommodation and long-distance footpaths in the early 1990s. And I was a designer in residence for the Countryside Commission, and the internet did not really exist in those days, but I did a lot of research, and there was no such thing as glamping pods. There was little woodland cabins or mountain cabins. There was a lot of bunkhouse accommodation on our long-distance footpaths. But my background, by the way, is I'm a specialist in timber design, and we were looking in particular at using forest thinnings in construction, so that's why it's a strange sort of log cabin type building. But I made them curved because I bent the poles to give them structural strength, and that's the first glamping pod. So I built that in my time with Countryside Commission for Scotland. That article was in the Farmers Weekly, and that was really the article that launched my business, and it was called Tents of Timber. You'll notice it wasn't called Wigwams of Timber or Glamping Pods of Timber, just Tents of Timber back in those days. So that was kind of the beginning of glamping. I'm not claiming to invent glamping, but I did build the first glamping pod. So what happened with me is I started a business back in 1992, so it was 30 years ago. And we've been building wooden cabins for 30 years, and we've now set up and run a very healthy glamping franchise called Wigwam Holidays, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So that's the introduction, and now we're going to go into the 12 steps to starting your glamping business. So here's the first question: should I start a glamping business? Well, that is a very good question. So here's the next question for you: who here is in business? Any business? Okay. Is it hard? If you love it, it's not that hard. That's a really good point. I think it's hard. I think it's hard being in business. Even if you love it, it takes a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your money, and a lot of commitment. Okay? And whether you start a glamping business or any other business, you're going to need to think through what is the commitment that I'm prepared to put into this venture, because you have to be 100% committed. Whether you should start a glamping business, is a glamping business right for me? Well, have you got hands up who owns land? Okay, a few hands. Don't be scared to put your hand up. It's just I like to know who I'm speaking to, that's all. Otherwise I'm just standing here talking too much, which is very much a habit of mine. So if you own land, the question is your land suitable for glamping? And why would you start a glamping business as opposed to building maybe some self-catering cottages? Well, glamping it's very in. I think it's sustainable. People want affordable, local holidays, which is what glamping provides. And glamping also gives you that back to nature experience of being in the outdoors, and everybody is craving that. I think one of our big lessons from COVID was that, when we had that taken away from us, foreign travel, and even some people living in cities, even just getting outside, people craved the outdoors. They understood fundamentally that the outdoors was there for them. It nurtures you and it makes you happy. So I think glamping ticks all these good boxes. It's sustainable, it's environmentally friendly, and it connects people with the outdoors. The question is, what about your land? So we're going to come back to the land in a minute. Is a glamping business right for me? That's as much as I can say right now. We've only got half an hour. I could talk for half an hour about whether it's right for you, but land requirements, it's almost like I've done this before. So, the question is, you've got land, is it the right land? How much land? So one of our, and I can talk from experience, sites, you would need about maybe quarter of an acre, half an acre to site a few glamping pods. You want to give people a bit of access to the countryside. It's not a good idea just to have a little paddock, which is the size of this. We're all thinking in acres, and I'm thinking in meters. But say you had sort of something 50 square meters, and you put in 3 pods. People need space, so it's nice to give them a bit of access to your farm or your small holding or whatever you've got. So think about that. So you do need space and you need services, and we'll come to that a bit. Some of these things actually overlap. Is a glamping business the right option for my land? I think if you know your farm well, which you will, or your site well, you'll already know where you're thinking would be good on the farm. Get a tent, put it where you're thinking is such a nice place, get yourself a comfy blow-up mattress, whatever, get yourself a barbecue, and go and stay in that bit of land. Be warm, take a decent sleeping bag or a downy for the house or something. Have a beer or herbal tea or whiskey or whatever you're into. Enjoy a campfire, sleep the night, wake up in the morning, ask yourself this one question: did I enjoy that? Because if you couldn't sleep because of those aeroplanes that were just landing overhead, or the rattling of the M6, which is like 50 yards away, that's not the right location for a glamping business. So you have to have that balance of a nice location where people want to come and they will enjoy, and then of course services. I think we're going to come to services in a minute. So we came to financial requirements, but that'll lead to services. I'm very good at this. So I don't like PowerPoints. It's kind of known that I don't like PowerPoints, but I'm doing my best. So we've talked about the land. I will say before we just leap into this, if you enjoyed that experience, the question is, will you get planning? We will come to that. Can you service this land with the basics: sewage, electricity, water? Will it need to be off-grid? What are the options if you take it off-grid? And all these things. But let's assume it's a nice piece of land that you can get people to and from in their vehicles, maybe not right up to the site and into them, but if your perfect piece of land is half a mile from where they park their car, it's not the right piece of land. That's a niche market. That's called mountain bothies. Okay, so financial requirements. How much does it cost to set up a glamping business? Well, look, that is a very, very broad question, and it really does depend on what product you go for, and we'll come to products in a short while. But let's say you were buying pods, and let's say your average value of pod was £30,000, and you bought, let's say, 4 of them. If we do the maths, that's £120,000. So you then have to think about what I call the 3 numbers. And the 3 numbers are electricity, water, and sewage. Those will be your costs. There's a bit of infrastructure and maybe some roads and all that thing, but get those 3 numbers first. And you can actually you can get those numbers before you start feasibility studies and planning applications and all that stuff. You just need to know, can I get power into this site? I have bitter experience of this. We have our own holiday village up in the Scottish Highlands, and I did not know those 3 numbers, and that was expensive. So, rule of thumb, allow about 50% on top of the cost of those pods, maybe double the cost of those pods. So your 4 pods for 120 is going to look a bit more like 200,000, I think, by the time you've got all your drainage in and all your electricity in and all your other stuff in. It may not. You may get that for 10 grand, in which case that's what I say. It's a broad question, but it's the cost of the 3 numbers. Then you've got your planning costs, etc. So I think with those 4 pods at 30,000, 120 plus a bit, I think you're going to come in about 150 to 200,000. So that I think is the sort of figures you should be thinking about. Here's the big one, feasibility study. Great idea. There are many consultants who will offer you a feasibility study, and some of them will be excellent. Some of them will be excellent. They'll know their stuff. Look at their track record. Have they done this sort of thing before? Have they got testimonials, people that said, yeah, I love these guys. But basically your feasibility study is just looking at your location, looking at the cost of those 3 numbers. I think the 3 numbers are like really important. Then looking at your local demand, looking at how far are you from a centre of population. There's this kind of magic 2 hours, but some sites, in my site's 3 hours from Edinburgh, and it's busy because people are prepared to travel there. So the feasibility study just takes in all this stuff. You're looking at what's the demand for accommodation in your local area, how many planning applications like this have been approved in your local area. We'll come to that with planning. What's the cost of setting this thing up? What's my potential revenue? What's my marketing costs? And all that stuff. You can do that fairly easily, actually. So that is, to me, what a feasibility study is all about. Planning permission, perfect. So once you've worked it all out and you think, I want to go ahead with this, we've got to get a planning application into your local authority. So to my mind, planning is about selling your vision to your neighbours or local community and your local authority. And there'll be some things will come along and they'll just be kind of like red lines. You can't do it because highways say no, or you can't do it because flood risk assessment says you can't do it, or whatever. But just general terms in planning. Has anybody here got much experience with planning, just out of interest? You do, so I'll be very careful what I say to you, because you can call me out if I get any of this wrong. I'm not a planning consultant, but we've been down this road many, many times. So you've basically got your planning fees for the local authority, then you've got your consultant fees to put the drawings together and submit them and go through all the red tape to put in your planning application. And then you'll have what's called technical reports as and when they arrive. So it could be a tree survey, a habitat survey, it could be, as I said earlier on, a flood risk assessment, it could be an environmental impact assessment. So there's lots of things that can come out of a planning application that you didn't quite think were going to happen, and it can turn into tens of thousands of pounds worth of planning application. But do remember, once you've got it, it's worth having. You've got an asset, you've got a big asset. So the planning application is fundamental to the commercial running of a site, but it's also a bit of another one that is difficult just to estimate the cost. It may be it just all rolls through, takes 3 to 6 months. I believe they're taking longer at the moment, and it costs you £5,000. We've got one guy in our stand, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, who did his own planning application himself, and he overcame all the hurdles himself. Remember what I said about you're selling your vision to your local community and to your planning authority. This to me is one of the nicest planning sketches I've seen. You can look at that and you know immediately, I get that, I know what he's doing. So you can take that to your local village hall and you can invite your community around and you can talk about it, and you can talk about the types of buildings you're going to put up, and you can give them all tea and cakes and win them over, get letters of support from local businesses who want this to happen, and it will all help you get that planning application, because if you can get their support, you're winning the council over as well. And remember, the council could come back and say, actually, no, this doesn't fit within the plan, etc. We offer a thing called a desktop survey, and other consultants will do the same thing, where you just sort of look at the local plan, look at local planning applications, and you make a call whether it's worth going forward. You can also put in a thing called a pre-planning application, which draws out those issues before you go to the full hog of drawings and all the rest of it. But remember what I said, you're communicating your project to the local authority and the local community. And we've had some disasters if that's not done properly. So just remember that one bit about planning applications. Glamping pods and cabins. What glamping pods should I buy? Right, this is simple. Buy them from a manufacturer that's got a track record. I just couldn't give you better advice. Quite fooling myself, haven't I? But buy them from somebody that look at testimonials. How long have they been going? Do I like the product? What's the quality of build? If you're not the sort of person that really gets into the technical quality of build, get your local pal that's a joiner to come and have a look at the cabins that you're thinking of buying. There's some brilliant products out there. We manufacture cabins, but there's plenty of other manufacturers, and some are better than others, and I'm not an expert in other people's products. But I do know that we've been going for 30 years, and we have never, we've had hundreds of repeat customers, and we've never, touch wood, let anybody down, unless they've been completely unreasonable. So you just want to find a company that's got a track record, got a testimonial, you like their product, and have a look at, do you think it fits into the market that you're going for? Pods is a funny word. We started this long before that word came along, but they're also very different. A pod could be something not much bigger than a garden shed with a couple of mattresses in it, or a pod could be something the size of a small house. So pods are dramatically different, and it will boil down to the market that you're actually going for. And we've not said canvas here, but it may be that your solution is not to go down all this road of infrastructure and pods. You're going to get a couple of bell tents, and you're going to have a composting toilet. That'll cost you a lot less. So these are things that you need to think about, and actually it does boil down to what your vision is, because the lady that's in business, and we're going to come to this shortly, your vision for your business is fundamental to the business success. So this is a quick one, financing this site. There's basically 3 or 4 or 5 routes to finance. You can, cheapest finance, borrow the money from a member of your family, done. All right? So if you can't do that, go to the bank. If you own the land, you're going to get the best interest rate that is on the market, because they'll take security against your land. So if you don't have the land, then there's other ways to do it. You can go to asset finance. So a lot of the manufacturers have pods which can be financed through an asset finance company that takes security over the value of the asset, the same as buying a car. Then there's things like franchise finance. If you did think, actually, we'd like to go down a franchise route with one of the franchise vendors, then the banks like that, because they can see a track record, they can check out the franchise success, and they've got franchise departments. And there's other sources of funding. There's things like Funding Circle or Capify, which is a kind of crowdfunding thing. I'm not an expert. And that's kind of where your finance routes will lie. Here we go, business plan. I'm going to keep coming back to you again, because the reason you're going to write a business plan is not because you want to, because nobody likes, well, most people don't like doing that sort of thing. But this is fundamental. It's back to that first question, why start a glamping business? If you think about your business plan, you're doing all the work right at the beginning, and you're going to save yourself all the heartache later on. Plus, you're going to clarify in your minds what you're doing. It's a bit like writing down your goals. They're more likely to happen, or writing a to-do list. It's more likely to get done. So why writing a business plan for a glamping project is necessary? It's the same as any project. You're just writing down how much is it going to cost, how much is it going to earn, who's going to operate, how am I going to market it, where's it going to be, and then you can take that and you can sell that to the banks. It's another way of communicating your vision to the funding body. How to design and lay out a glamping site. So again, that's another kind of big question. Nobody, every site is different. But there's some basic principles that I think you should think about. So if you're going to go for glamping cabins or pods, don't face them at each other. Don't draw a circle on a map. Architects like to draw a circle on a map and then put them all around the circle facing the middle. No. People don't want to wake up in the morning and go out into the great outdoors and see their neighbour standing doing the same back to them. Don't face them at each other. Preferably, find a site with a south-facing aspect, south to southwest facing aspect, because that's nice. People get the sun, they get the evening sun, people love sunsets. This one is really interesting. This is in Yorkshire, North Allerton, and what we've done here is the road is behind those trees. So each cabin is accessed from a road, which is the cars parked fairly local to that site, and then they can just walk into their cabin. So I'm a big fan of, if you're going to have vehicles on site, park them behind the cabins and keep the space in front for children to play in or dogs to run around or whatever you're going to do. You will need to think about parking. So you're either going to have to remember to allow 1 or 2 vehicles per cabin, or have an area where you can park twice as many vehicles as you've got cabins or pods, because people will maybe want to bring 2 cars and you need to think about where they're going to park up. So you've got your views, you've got your south-facing aspect. How do people, the other thing about pods and caravans is the legal requirement is that they're 6 metres apart. So those ones are about 12 metres apart, but the minimum is 6. So again, when you're looking at that site, my advice, get some sticks in the ground, mark out where your cabins are going to be. One of our guys found that our wigwam cabins were the same size as our tarpaulin, and he bought 6 tarpaulins and he just put them into the ground with tent pegs, and then he could actually see his site before he'd even started. And one of our other guys planted his site up 5 years before he got his planning permission. And he got a grant to put his trees in, and he said to the funding body, it's okay if I do them in a sort of little pattern. I'm funny that way, I like little patterns. He planted the trees to accommodate his pitches 5 years before he went to planning. That's long-term thinking. But he laid out his site in his mind long ago. Go to Google Earth and look at any glamping site. Our website is wigwamholidays.com. You can look at our locations. Just go to Google Earth and you can see how people are laying out their sites. But those are my basic principles. Marketing your glamping business, how to market well, marketing is one of those big subjects, and it's way more than I can do in a couple of minutes within this presentation. But basically, it's going to be digital. Everybody's online. There's some big websites out there that are dominating the online market. Camping websites, glamping websites, and accommodation, self-catering websites. If you set up, you will need to get your own website and build that. Get your own social media accounts, and don't be afraid to use them. Get used to taking photos with your mobile phone. And if you can set up a website and a brand, get a good graphic designer, great, because that's the cheapest bookings you're going to get, but you're going to have to work for them. If you're relying on the what's called booking channels, then they'll all take their percentages. So anything from 15 to 20% is a sort of industry benchmark. And then you could list with several different booking websites, and it's like a big fishing net. It's all coming to you at the end of the day. So what I'm saying about this is think digital. Yes, leaflet drops. That's one of our leaflets. So you could print 100,000 leaflets and go to different distributors, bags of info or what have you, and drop them all over the place. But it's actually quite expensive, and the way people are looking and booking holidays now is online. So I would focus on digital. And I will say within the business plan there's a marketing plan, so you can start to think about all this before you don't wait until you've got all the pods parked up and then think, oh shit, I don't have any bookings. Online bookings and channel management, I've just covered that. It's actually it's the same subject. Everybody's using online booking nowadays. You need to get a good online booking system that's intuitive and easy to use and gives you the reports that you need for your accountant and for yourselves and your sanity. So again, there's plenty of choice out there. Go for one that is popular and has got a good track record of customer service. Now you're open, this is where the real work begins. So I'm going to come straight to us now. Obviously when you open, you're going to do a lot of cleaning. You're going to be dealing with the public, and you've got short stays. Right back at the beginning is a glamping business for you. So when you're open, cleanliness is going to be the sort of basics of it, customer service, communicating with customers and getting bookings. So I'm going to try very, very briefly to tell you what we do, and then I wrap up this hopefully for some questions. So Wigwam Holidays was set up 20 years ago with 4 different sites and farms around Scotland, and it's now a UK-wide business. We're a franchise. So we help you with everything I've just discussed. Our core purpose is to provide great holidays in the great outdoors. We can offer support in all of this, and I'm actually, believe it or not here to sell you our services. I'm just going to throw it out there, and if you want to come and chat to us, it's stand FM330. You'll see our flags. I think they're about a few yards just from this auditorium, or email us sales@wigwamholidays.com, or just go to wigwamholidays.com. But we'll give you a 2-hour consultation free of charge. We can do a comprehensive site review of your land and a site visit for £250. The 2-hour session will cover everything I've just discussed. The feasibility study, business plan, cash flows, return on investment, competitive analysis and more. We do a flat rate £750. Access to specialised asset finance. Do you remember we talked about asset finance or franchise finance? We do have people that we work with. We, back in the days before that thing called Brexit, raised millions of pounds for our locations through leader funding. Grants have dried up, hopefully they'll come back, but we do have a very capable lady in our team who will help you with grant and loan applications. Your desktop planning survey is the thing you're going to do before that planning application. So again, we work with consultants that can do a desktop survey and look at your site, look at the postcode, look at the local plan, look at planning submissions, blah blah blah, and see if this thing has got wings, or if it's just not going to fly. Pre-planning application is the thing that you can do before the full planning application. So you go to the local authority and say, this is what we're going to do, and it draws out all those issues, and then you might say, actually, this isn't going to work. Something really big could hit you, like a highways. Highways might say, no, your road entrance is not happening. And then the full planning application, we've got a budget figure in there for £3,500. That doesn't include technical reports. So all of that is £6,000. And if you come with us, and if we provide that service to you and you come with us and you sign your franchise, we're going to give you half of it back. Because we're building long-term franchise partners, and that is our way of saying, let's help you get started. Wigwam Holidays is effectively a marketing and a training company with a quality assured product. So we've got a network of about 80 sites. About half of them are full-fledged franchise locations. We started the business 20 years ago, we started the franchise 2014, however many years ago, that was 8 years ago, and we've had more or less 100% renewals since we started. It's a 5-year term. That's our annual conference, which is actually this month up in Edinburgh, but that chap is Eddie the Eagle. We try and get a good speaker to the conference. He's got a great movie out, by the way, so if you don't come to our conference, at least watch the Eddie the Eagle movie, because it's brilliant. So our offer to you is more or less what I've said. It's to commit to working with you from the planning and design stages all the way through to the day you open your exciting new glamping site and everything in between. Once open, our experienced and dedicated franchise team will set about ensuring your new business continued growth, development and success, and we've bullet pointed all the different things that we can offer you. I think the key one in all of that, is strong community. I know it's a bit of a cliche to talk about business families and business communities, but we all like to be part of a community, and some people know. Some of you are going to think, no, don't like that guy, don't like this idea of being part of his community, but there's a real breadth and strength in being part of a network, because there's always somebody you can pick the phone up to that will know what your problem is and will be able to solve it. And there's an awful lot of that goes on within us. We do have great systems, online booking, marketing, website design and all that stuff. So just throw out there, we charge a one-off franchise fee, which is £7,500, and we charge 12.5% for your commissions on your turnover. But remember, if you go into all these different websites, they're going to charge you at least that just for the booking only, never mind all that other stuff. So that's what we do. We can help you from when you start all the way through. If you like what you've heard, come and speak to us. We've got a great product range. We manufacture our own cabins, by the way, and we do that because of quality assurance. We did try and do it the other way around and it didn't work. So we do manufacture the cabins, but we also have this franchise. Thank you all for listening patiently, and if you do want to find out any more, come to the stand. Thank you.